This is Rene Rubacava with AutoNet, and today I want to talk about something that came up not too long ago that I was looking at, and it had to do with communicating with embedded maps inside an iframe in your application. Now, I'm not talking about the embedded maps that you would get from ArcGIS Online. I'm actually talking about an embedded map that maybe you created as a separate application that you want to embed into another application. And that application might be something that has to do with generating reports or showing some other data, where the map is not the focus of the application, but you still want to have it available for the users and also want to be able to communicate with it to do things like center the map based on maybe something clicked on a report or button done in the main application. And the reason I'm not going to talk as much about the embedded maps from ArcGIS Online is because in order to be able to do this communication between the iframe and a parent application, they both have to be on the same domain. So when you use an embedded ArcGIS Online map, it's not going to be on the same domain as your application. So you won't be able to get any access to the globals between them and do much other than change the size of the iframe. Things like that. Maybe in another video I'll cover some of the cool things you can do with the URL parameters for the embedded maps from ArcGIS Online and things you can do to tweak that. But for now, let's just assume that you're creating a mapping application you want to embed in a separate application. So what I've done here is I have a 4.0 map, and I just copied it from the samples in the ArcGIS JavaScript API documentation. And I added a little bit of stuff to it that we're going to talk about in a second here. And that's going to be this particular one here. So the map is inside of an iframe, and then the parent application has a button that says go to Los Angeles. So what we want to do here, and I do show that window.map is equal to new map here, just to show that you can access global variables inside the iframe from your main application. That's how you would do it. I'm actually going to show that type of communication for this demo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be using the window.postmessage. And you can actually check out the documentation for window.postmessage on the Mozilla Developer Network. There's a lot of stuff in here, and basically what you want to do is you want to pass in parameters for the message, which has to be something serializable. So either a string or JSON. If you want to pass in something more complex, it can't be a class or anything like that, or any functions. You can only pass around data that can be serialized. And then the target origin. Basically, the target origin is just the host or the domain that this is going to be communicating with. And I'll show you a sample of that in a second. So you want to read all this and look at some of the examples that they have here. And it also talks about the fact that you can't do anything between cross domains, and that is just because it's a security issue. So let's get to our sample over here. So after you've created your map and you create your map view, you're going to add an event listener to the window called message. And what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to go ahead and listen for a specific message, and I do that by having a property on the message getting passed around called MSG, and just shorthand for message. And if that message is update center, then I know that I should have a center property in my data. And I'm going to go ahead and use the method goTo on the view to go to the center. And then when that's done, I'm going to send back a message to the parent to let it know that the center is complete. And then I am on localhost, so I have to pass in localhost as the second parameter to postmessage here. So when you're working with postmessage, you get an event, and whatever data you send in the postmessage here is going to be on the data property for the event. So that's how you're going to get to that. So let's see what that looks like. If I go to my main page here, so it's the parent application, I have a button, then I have a little div under the button here for logging out information. And here's my Go to Los Angeles button. So and I'm going to grab my iframe, which has an ID of my map, and you can see the iframe up here, and just kind of have some properties to it to give it some size. And I'm going to have an event listener for the button, so when I click on it, I'm going to go ahead and pass a message to the iframe's content window, do a post message for that update center, and I'm going to pass in some coordinates with that center. And again, I have to let it know that I'm talking to localhost as my second parameter here. And on my window, I have an event listener for message, where I'm going to listen for messages coming to the parent application, and if it's center complete, then I'm just going to put a little log in here of map centered to Los Angeles, so I know that it was done. All right, so that's pretty simple. So let's look what that looks like. I click on the button, and bam, there we go. I've been centered into Los Angeles. So that's a very simple way to be able to do communication between the iframe and your parent application, and be able to pass that stuff around. It's very nice to be able to work with that. It's a little cumbersome having to put the second argument here for the host all the time, but it's not really much of a big deal. So if you want some basic communications between your parent application and an embedded application, that's how you would do it. But let's look at something else a little bit different here. So let me move this over here. Let me close my console window here. And let me go to a different application, very similar. So this is basically the same application, but in this case what I'm doing is I have a 4.0 map over here, just like I did before, but I've also got a 3.17 version of the map over here. So one thing I want to do is if I center the map, I want to talk to both of these, and I want to have both of them go to the same center. So I can set that up with the Windows post message on all of them. However, if I wanted to do something like maybe validate the data, or just have something that can be an intermediary of this kind of event bus system that I'm using here to be able to talk between my embedded applications and my parent applications, I can initialize a worker to do that. So let's go ahead and close these up, and let's open up the parent application here. So as you can see, I've got two iframes. One's called my map, the other one my map 3 for my version 3x version of the map. I've got my same button that I had before, except this time I'm going to go ahead and initialize a worker. And I'm going to be using that worker when I click the button to be able to post a message and send center map along with some coordinates. And I'm also going to listen for events on the worker that come back that lets me know that the center was complete, and I'm going to go ahead and map log that out to the same thing I did before. So this hasn't changed much, other than instead of having the window listen for the message event, I have a worker listening for message events. And that worker is very basic. It's not too difficult. It's just going to have an event listener here listening for messages, and extract the data, and based on see, in this case here, I'm taking a message called center map, and I'm not going to be passing that along in the worker. I'm actually going to have the worker post on the different message, but pass the same information. But again, I could do stuff in here like maybe make sure that the center is within a certain extent. I can validate the data. I can do all kinds of really interesting stuff inside the worker before I pass the messages along in this little communication system I have going here. And if it's not center map, I'm just going to go ahead and post the message as is without any changes done. So let's go to my regular map. So this is the 4.0 map, and this really doesn't change much. I'm still getting my worker from the parent. So this is my parent application. And what I'm going to do here is that when the 4.0 map center is updated, I'm using the accessor here to watch for the centers to change. When that center changes, I'm going to post a message to the worker called sync center. And I want to sync the center of my 4.0 map with my 3x map. And I'm going to pass the longitude and latitude of my center in that message. I've also got the same message I had before. So I have a worker event listener listening for message. If it's update center, I'm going to update the center of the map by using view.goto. That didn't change at all. And let's look at the 3x map now. So the 3x map, this is just a very basic map that I'm creating. And again, I'm going to get the parent worker, and I'm going to go ahead and have an event listener here for message. And I'm pretty much doing the same thing I'm doing in 4.0, and I'm going to update the center of this map here. And I really don't need this one, because I'll also be, if the 4.0 center changes, I'm going to get a message back called sync center. And when I get that sync center message back, I'm going to go ahead and center the map to whatever that location is. But I just want to also show that you can do the same thing here by doing the map.center at with the point of the center, pass a spatial reference when I do the update center, just like I did before. So let's look at what that looks like here. So if I click on go to Los Angeles, both my maps have moved. Now if I start panning this map around, this is the 4.0 map, it's going to start sending messages to the 3x map. Alright, so there's a little bit of a delay, and this really is the fact that the center on the 4.0 map is constantly changing. It's not a, there's no delay in the update center here. It is changing for every little increment that I do, and the 3x map, trying to update the center that often just can't keep up with trying to make those updates dynamically the way that I'm doing it. So it's easy enough if I pan around, but if I move this again around, it's going to go ahead and recenter my map for me. So the idea here being that I could do something like maybe treat this like the 3x map like an overview map, and start moving this around, and you can see here that I still get the slight bit of movement even if I'm super zoomed in, super zoomed out, however it may be. So that's another option you can do if you want to have communication working between your main application and your embedded maps. You have the option of using simply the Windows Postmessage event, which is it's actually this one here. So you can do a post message on one of the windows, the iframe content window, or the parents window, post messages from there. Or you can actually generate a worker if you wanted to do something that's inside the worker between when you're passing the messages around that might modify the data or validate the data in some way. Those are your two options you can work with. Or you can just work directly with the globals too. So if I click on a button in my main application, I do have the option here of talking to the global map, and just know where I can make the view global as well, and I can do something like window.view, and now I can access to the view from my main application and basically just do the view.goto from the parent application as well. It's entirely up to you. I kind of like the idea of sending messages back and forth, either just by a regular post message or by initializing a worker to be able to handle that for me. So give that a shot, see if that'll help you out in your applications when you want to embed your mini applications into other larger applications and do some pretty cool things there. Enjoy. Thank you.